My girlfriend wanted an open relationship, so I slept with her best friend. Now she's losing it. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be posting about my relationship, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some advice. I'm 28, and until recently, I thought I had an amazing relationship with my girlfriend, Sophie, 27. We've been together for 3 years and living together for 2. Things were so good that I was secretly looking at engagement rings during my lunch breaks. We met through mutual friends at a board game night. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I loved how competitive she got over Monopoly, and we clicked instantly. After a year, we moved in together since we were practically living at each other's places already. We had a comfortable routine: Sunday pancakes, walks in the park after work, and watching her favorite reality shows while I played games on my phone. Sophie works in marketing, and I'm a construction project manager. We both have stable jobs, great friends, and our families get along well. My mom adores her, and her dad always invites me over to watch football. We were the kind of couple people admired. Everything changed last Tuesday. We were having dinner when, completely out of nowhere, Sophie asked, "What would you think about trying an open relationship?" I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. At first, I thought I'd misheard her, but she kept explaining how she'd been reading about open relationships online, how more couples were trying them, and how it could help us grow as individuals while making our relationship stronger. My first question was, is there someone specific you want to date? She immediately denied it, insisting it wasn't about anyone else. According to her, we were still young, and she didn't want us to wake up 10 years from now wondering what we'd missed. She said she loved me and wasn't unhappy. She just believed we could have new experiences with other people while still coming home to each other. I sat there trying to process everything. This was the same woman who once got jealous because a waitress smiled at me, yet now she was casually suggesting we date other people. I asked if she'd been unhappy or if I'd missed some warning signs, but she insisted everything between us was great. Meanwhile, I completely lost my appetite while she excitedly talked about boundaries, rules, and communication. In the end, I agreed, not because I wanted an open relationship, but because it was obvious she'd already made up her mind. The excitement in her eyes made it clear that saying no wasn't really an option. She asked if I was truly okay with it, and said we didn't have to do it if I wasn't comfortable. But looking at her, I realized it wasn't a real choice. Whether I liked it or not, something between us had already changed. This version is shorter, reads more naturally, and preserves the important events, emotions, and sequence without changing the story. I forced a nod and said, "No, it's fine. If you think it'll be good for us, we can try it." The truth was, I didn't believe in any of it. I only agreed because I wanted to figure out what was really going on. Deep down, though, I already felt like I was losing her. Sophie lit up with excitement. She immediately started talking about setting up Tinder and Bumble profiles together, creating rules, and letting each other know whenever we had dates planned. It sounded like she'd already spent a lot of time thinking about it. While I sat there wondering how long she'd been planning this, the rest of the evening felt painfully awkward. We watched TV like we always did, with Sophie curled up next to me as if nothing had changed. Meanwhile, my mind wouldn't stop racing. I wanted to tell her I wasn't okay with any of this, but every time I looked at her smiling at her phone, I convinced myself I'd already made the biggest mistake of my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sophie was peacefully asleep beside me while I stared at the ceiling, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. Part of me wanted to wake her up and tell her I couldn't do this. Another part was terrified that if I said no, she'd either do it anyway or leave me for someone else. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had, asking myself if I'd missed the warning signs. Was she bored? Was I not enough? Was there already someone else? I had nothing but questions. I had no idea things were about to get even worse. The very next day, Sophie spent the entire evening setting up her dating profiles. She even asked me to help choose her pictures and to take new ones so she'd look better for other guys. As humiliating as it felt, I went along with it. I tried making my own profile too, just to show I was participating, but my heart wasn't in it. Every bio I wrote felt fake. What was I supposed to say? In a relationship, but looking for fun. The whole thing made me feel sick. I think Sophie knew I wasn't going to meet anyone. I'm not very social, and I told her more than once that I didn't have the time or energy to date other people. Maybe that's why she felt comfortable going out, while keeping me waiting at home as her backup plan. She started getting matches almost immediately. She's beautiful, funny, and outgoing, so it wasn't surprising. What hurt was how quickly she began meeting them. Within a week, she had 3 dates planned. She'd show me their profiles as if we were talking about celebrities. "Look at this one," she'd say, holding her phone in front of me. "He's a personal trainer at that fancy gym downtown. We're getting coffee tomorrow." I'd just nod and pretend everything was normal. The first time she got ready for a date, I felt sick. She wore a black dress I'd never seen before. She'd actually bought new clothes for these dates. After spending an hour doing her makeup, she twirled in front of me with a smile. "How do I look?" "You look great," I said, even though I couldn't stop thinking that she'd probably spent more on that dress than she usually did for our own date nights. She came home late that evening laughing and smiling. I pretended to be asleep, but I could hear her texting someone for nearly an hour. The next morning, she was humming while making coffee like nothing had happened. Soon I noticed the pattern. Monday was coffee with the personal trainer. Wednesday was dinner with a lawyer. Friday was drinks with a guy who owned a food truck. Every time she came home, she looked like she'd had an amazing time. If you're rewriting this for Reddit or YouTube narration, this version sounds much more like a real person telling the story while preserving the original events and emotions. I even started checking the locations she tagged on Instagram. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know what was really going on. One night, I drove past the restaurant where she said she was having dinner. There she was, sitting at the bar with a tall guy in a suit, laughing at everything he said. She had her hand resting on his arm, looking at him the same way she used to look at me. Honestly, the hardest part wasn't even seeing her with other guys. It was how much she'd changed at home. She barely spent time with me anymore. The cuddles disappeared. She was constantly texting someone, and our Sunday pancake tradition was replaced with brunch plans or another date. It felt like our relationship had quietly disappeared while I was still living in it. One day, I finally asked, "Don't you think you're going on a lot of dates?" I tried to sound casual, but she looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "That's the whole point of an open relationship," she said. "To meet new people and have new experiences. You should try it too. I can help you improve your dating profile." But I didn't want help with my profile. I wanted my girlfriend back. I wanted the woman who used to get excited about ordering pizza, watching terrible movies, and spending quiet evenings together. Not this version who was always dressed up and heading out the door. One evening, while she was getting ready for yet another date, I honestly couldn't remember if it was guy number 6 or 7. I couldn't take it anymore. I left the apartment and went for a walk, eventually ending up at the park where we'd always had picnics together. I sat there for almost 2 hours, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Sophie. Asterisk, hope you're okay. Asterisk, asterisk, don't wait up. Asterisk, asterisk, I'm having such a great time. Asterisk, every message felt like another twist to the knife. The next day, she started telling me all about her date, how funny the guy was, and how he'd taken her to an amazing new restaurant. I couldn't listen anymore. I got up and walked away. She followed me, genuinely confused. "I thought you were okay with this," she said. "Yeah, maybe I'm not," I finally admitted. "But you could be dating too. You're choosing to stay home and be miserable." That was the moment I realized she truly didn't understand. She couldn't see that I didn't want to date other people. I wanted her. I wanted the old Sophie, the one who loved our simple, boring, comfortable life together. By then, 3 weeks had passed since she suggested the open relationship. 3 weeks of watching her dress up for other men. 3 weeks of lying awake at night wondering where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. 3 weeks of slowly losing myself. I kept hoping she'd come to her senses. I thought she'd eventually realize how much she was risking and how ridiculous this whole situation had become. But she never did. There was no guilt, no hositashchen. If anything, she seemed proud of herself, like she discovered some secret to relationships that everyone else was too close-minded to understand. What I couldn't understand was why. She always claimed she loved me. She said she was happy with our relationship. So why destroy it? That's when it finally hit me. There was no fixing this. There was no going back. It was over in a way that couldn't be undone. For the first time, I wasn't even sure I cared anymore. The thought of her out there enjoying herself while I sat at home miserable lit something inside me. I wanted her to regret every decision she'd made. I wanted her to understand exactly what she'd thrown away. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to keep suffering while she got to have all the fun. I just needed someone to talk to, someone who would actually understand what I was going through. That's when Emma started coming around more often. Emma had been Sophie's best friend since their freshman year of college. She was always at our place, joining movie nights, helping us move furniture, or bringing soup whenever one of us was sick. She was one of those genuinely kind people who always made you feel heard. She worked as a kindergarten teacher, which suited her perfectly. To me, she'd always just been Sophie's friend. Sure, she was beautiful, long brown hair, green eyes, and a smile that could brighten any room. But I never thought of her romantically. Besides, she'd been dating a guy named Mark for almost 2 years before they broke up a few months earlier. The first time Emma came over after Sophie suggested the open relationship, she just needed to borrow some mixing bowls to bake a birthday cake. Sophie was out on another date, and it didn't take Emma long to realize something was wrong. "You look terrible," she said. "What's going on?" I hadn't planned to tell anyone, but once I started talking, everything came spilling out. I told her how Sophie had blindsided me with the idea of an open relationship, how she'd been going on date after date, and how helpless I felt watching the person I loved slowly drift away. Emma didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I finished, she quietly shook her head. "That's not an open relationship," she said. "That's Sophie doing whatever she wants without caring how it's affecting you." Hearing someone else say it made me realize I wasn't crazy. After that, Emma started stopping by more often, usually while Sophie was out with someone else. We'd watch movies, order takeout, and just talk. It was comforting to have someone who knew both of us and understood everything that was happening. About a month after this whole situation started, Emma came over looking unusually nervous. She kept playing with her necklace, something I noticed she always did when she was anxious. "I need to tell you something," she said as she sat on the other end of the couch. "It might make things awkward, but I can't keep pretending." My stomach tightened. Somehow, I already knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary conversation. "I've had feelings for you for a long time," she admitted, staring down at her hands. "Even before you and Sophie started dating. But she's my best friend, and you were together, so I never said anything. I started dating Mark because I hoped I'd move on." She gave a small shrug. "It didn't work." I just sat there, stunned. Emma? Funny, kind, incredibly beautiful Emma? How had I never noticed? She was the one who helped me pick out birthday and anniversary gifts for Sophie. The one who brought me homemade chicken soup when I was sick while Sophie barely checked in with a text. Had I really been that blind? "You don't have to say anything," Emma said quickly. "I just needed you to know. Watching Sophie treat you like this, seeing how much she's hurting you, it's been breaking my heart. You deserve so much better." For the first time, I really looked at her. She was wearing a simple green sweater that made her eyes stand out even more. Her hair was tied up in one of those effortless messy buns that somehow looked even better than if she'd spent hours styling it. And in that moment, I couldn't stop wondering how I'd never seen her this way before. At the same time, Sophie's behavior kept replaying in my mind. She honestly expected me to sit at home, waiting for her while she dated one guy after another, assuming I'd always be there whenever she decided to come back. That was her biggest mistake. She thought I was her safety net. She thought I'd keep waiting. But that chapter of my life was over. I wasn't going to keep living by her rules anymore. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was taking control of my own life. I took a deep breath, looked at Emma, and decided to take my chance. I began, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Emma moved a little closer on the couch. "I know this is complicated," she said softly. "I know telling you this probably makes everything even messier, but I've watched how miserable you've been these past few weeks. I couldn't stay quiet anymore." Before I had time to think, she leaned in and kissed me. I probably should have stopped her. I should have thought about Sophie, about their friendship, and about how complicated everything would become. Instead, I kissed her back. That kiss led to us spending the night together. What surprised me most wasn't what happened. It was how different it felt. Emma paid attention to me. She noticed every little change in my expression, asked what I was thinking, and genuinely cared about the answer. Later, as we lay in the dark, everything finally sank in. I just slept with my girlfriend's best friend. It should have felt like I'd crossed a line, but instead, all I could think about was how right it felt. It didn't feel like a meaningless rebound or an impulsive mistake. Emma turned toward me, resting on one elbow as she searched my face. "What are we going to do?" she asked quietly. I stared at the ceiling and let out a long breath. I should have felt guilty. I should have been conflicted. Instead, I felt relief. For the first time in weeks, I could finally breathe. "I don't know," I admitted. She hesitated before asking, "I don't regret it. Do you?" The surprising part was that I didn't. Not even for a second. For the first time since Sophie introduced the idea of an open relationship, everything suddenly made sense. I wasn't the one who had broken us. I wasn't the one who destroyed the trust between us. And maybe, just maybe, I deserved someone who wanted me and only me. "Sophie's going to lose it when she finds out," I said. "Probably," Emma replied. "But isn't it funny? She thinks it's completely fine for her to date other people, yet the thought of you doing the same would drive her crazy." She wasn't wrong. That was the moment I decided it was time for Sophie to experience what she'd put me through. I didn't tell Sophie about Emma right away. Part of me wanted to see how she'd react if I dropped a few hints first. Maybe it was petty, but after weeks of watching her go out with different guys while expecting me to stay home waiting for her, I figured she deserved to feel some of that uncertainty too. The morning after Emma left, Sophie came home after supposedly spending the night at Jessica's place. Honestly, I was pretty sure Jessica was actually some guy named Jason, but I didn't even bother asking. She walked into the kitchen chatting away about her girls' night while making coffee. That's when I casually said, "Oh, Emma stopped by last night. We had a really good talk." Sophie's hand froze on the coffee pot. "Emma was here?" "Yeah," I replied casually. "We talked for a while. She's really easy to talk to." She set her coffee mug down a little too hard, spilling some onto the counter. "What did you guys talk about?" "Oh, just life. Relationships. Feelings." It was nice. The expression on her face was impossible to miss. For the next hour, she kept texting someone, probably Emma, while pretending to watch TV with me. Every few minutes, she'd glance over at me, clearly trying to figure out what had happened. Over the next several days, I mentioned Emma more often. I'd talk about how funny she was, how easy she was to talk to, and how we'd been texting. Each time, Sophie's expression tightened. She tried to hide it, but I could tell it was getting under her skin. One morning, I caught myself smiling. One morning, I was smiling at my phone while texting Emma when Sophie practically leaned across the couch to see who I was talking to. "Who are you texting?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but she wasn't fooling anyone. "Just Emma," I replied. "She's really into that new show I recommended." Sophie's face tightened. She tried to smile, but it looked more like she was forcing it. "You two have been talking a lot lately." "Yeah," I said. "She's great to talk to. She really gets me." After that, Sophie started checking my phone whenever I left it lying around. She thought she was being subtle, but I'd catch her scrolling through my messages whenever I stepped into the kitchen or bathroom. The funny part was that I'd already deleted anything that could reveal what happened between Emma and me. I left just enough harmless conversations to make Sophie suspicious and keep her guessing. Then she started showing up everywhere. I'd mentioned grabbing coffee near work, and somehow she'd happen to be there. If I told her I was meeting friends at a bar, she'd appear an hour later, claiming she was just in the neighborhood. The biggest surprise was that she started canceling her own dates. Suddenly, she wanted to stay home, watch movies, and cook dinner together. It felt like she was trying to reclaim me without admitting that was exactly what she was doing. After several failed attempts to get closer, she finally asked me directly, "Are you seeing someone else?" I looked at her and said, "Isn't that kind of the point of an open relationship? To see other people?" "Yeah. But who is it?" she pressed. "Is it Emma? Are you sleeping with Emma?" I just smiled. "I thought we agreed we weren't supposed to share details about our other partners," I said. "Wasn't that what you told me when I asked about your dates?" She completely lost it. Sophie started checking my Instagram followers, paying attention to who liked my posts, and overanalyzing every interaction I had online. She even began obsessively following Emma's social media, trying to find hidden meaning in every photo and story she posted. The final straw came when Emma uploaded a selfie from a coffee shop, the same place where I usually grabbed my morning coffee. Within minutes, my phone rang. "Are you with Emma right now?" Sophie demanded. "Sophie, I'm at work. But you always get coffee there in the morning. Did you meet her?" I let her panic for a few seconds before replying. That coffee shop serves hundreds of people every day. Two people can go to the same place without meeting each other. She wasn't convinced. From that point on, she constantly wanted to know where I was, who I was with, and what I was doing. It was almost funny. The same woman who'd spent weeks coming home late after dates with other men, who never gave me a straight answer about where she'd been, was suddenly demanding to know my every move. Emma couldn't stop laughing when I told her about it. We'd been meeting in secret, usually at her apartment where there was no chance Sophie would accidentally see us. Any guilt I'd felt in the beginning had almost completely disappeared. In its place was something that felt a lot like justice. She really can't handle not being in control, can she? Emma said one evening as we relaxed together on her couch. Nope, I replied. And the best part is, she can't complain without admitting she never really wanted an open relationship. She just wanted permission to cheat. Then Sophie completely changed her approach. One night, she came home, sat down on the couch, and said something I never expected to hear. I think we should close the relationship again. I just stared at her. This was the same woman who'd spent weeks going on date after date, acting like she'd discovered the secret to happiness. Now she looked completely serious as she told me she thought it was time for us to focus on our relationship again. After weeks of going out with different guys, Sophie suddenly sat down on the couch and acted like she was doing me a favor. I think we've explored enough, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. We can go back to how things used to be. Just you and me. I couldn't help laughing. Just you and me? Like the last few weeks never happened? She looked genuinely confused. Well, yeah. Isn't that what you wanted? You haven't seemed happy with the open relationship. That was the moment I stopped pretending. You're right, I said. I haven't been happy watching my girlfriend go out with a different guy every other night while barely acknowledging I exist. She tried to look sympathetic, but it didn't feel genuine. I know it was hard for you, she said. That's why I think we should close the relationship and focus on us again. Focus on us? I repeated. Like you've been focusing on getting to know half the guys in this city? That's not fair, she snapped. You agreed to the open relationship. You could have been dating too. Oh, I have been. I watched the color drain from her face. What? I've been seeing someone. She went completely pale. Who? I shrugged. Does it matter? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Both of us exploring and having new experiences? She shot up from the couch. Of course it matters. Who is it? How long has this been going on? Then her expression changed. It's Emma. Isn't it? I stayed silent and let her connect the dots. She started pacing around the living room, running both hands through her hair. It is Emma. That's why you've been talking about her so much. That's why she's been avoiding my calls. She looked at me in disbelief. My best friend, I finally answered. It's funny. You thought it was perfectly fine for you to sleep with whoever you wanted, but the second I do the same, suddenly it's a problem. But it's Emma, she shouted. She's my best friend. You can't sleep with my best friend. I stood up. Actually, I can. I looked her straight in the eyes. And I did. She froze. What did you just say? Emma and I have been together more than once. She just stared at me. And you know what? I continued. She actually cares about how I feel. That's more than I can say for you lately. The shock on her face quickly turned into anger. You're lying. Emma would never do that to me. Really? I asked. Because she did. I paused before adding. And she's had feelings for me for years, even when she was dating Mark. You're making this up just to hurt me. She said the words confidently, but I could already see doubt creeping into her face. I'm not making anything up. Remember last Thursday, when you were out with that startup guy? Emma came over. We talked for hours. I looked directly at her. She sees me as a person, not as some backup plan waiting at home while you go live your best life. Without another word, Sophie grabbed her phone. She was obviously calling Emma. Check your messages with her, I said calmly. Have you noticed she's been distant lately? Short replies, leaving your texts unanswered. Sophie frantically scrolled through their conversation. I watched her expression slowly change as she realized everything I'd said fit. This can't be happening, she whispered. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Oh really? I asked. How is it supposed to go? You date whoever you want while I stay home waiting for you? Did you honestly think I'd never meet someone else? But not Emma, she yelled. Anyone but Emma. You knew this would hurt me. That was the breaking point. Hurt you? I shot back. What about everything you've put me through? Watching you get dressed up for other men. Watching you come home late. Watching you slowly stop caring about me. Did you ever stop to think how that felt? That was different, she argued. How? Those guys didn't mean anything. I shook my head. So that makes it better? You were having meaningless flings while I've actually developed real feelings for someone. She actually cares about how I feel. That's more than I can say for you lately. The shock on her face quickly turned into anger. You're lying. Emma would never do that to me. Really? I asked. Because she did. I paused before adding. And she's had feelings for me for years, even when she was dating Mark. You're making this up just to hurt me. She said the words confidently, but I could already see doubt creeping into her face. I'm not making anything up. Remember last Thursday, when you were out with that startup guy? Emma came over. We talked for hours. I looked directly at her. She sees me as a person, not as some backup plan waiting at home while you go live your best life. Without another word, Sophie grabbed her phone. She was obviously calling Emma. Check your messages with her, I said calmly. Have you noticed she's been distant lately? Short replies, leaving your texts unanswered. Sophie frantically scrolled through their conversation. I watched her expression slowly change as she realized everything I'd said fit. This can't be happening, she whispered. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Oh really? I asked. How is it supposed to go? You date whoever you want while I stay home waiting for you? Did you honestly think I'd never meet someone else? But not Emma, she yelled. Anyone but Emma. You knew this would hurt me. That was the breaking point. Hurt you? I shot back. What about everything you've put me through? Watching you get dressed up for other men. Watching you come home late. Watching you slowly stop caring about me. Did you ever stop to think how that felt? That was different, she argued. How? Those guys didn't mean anything. I shook my head. So that makes it better? You were having meaningless flings while I've actually developed real feelings for someone. Originally, I'd only planned to drop little hints and let her experience the same jealousy she'd put me through. But somewhere along the way, things had changed. She stared at me. Real feelings. Yeah, I answered. Real feelings. Emma and I. It's not just physical. We talk. We laugh. We actually enjoy being together. We actually care about each other, I said. When was the last time you and I had a real conversation that wasn't about your dates or your new experiences? Sophie slowly sat back down on the couch, looking completely defeated. So, what are you saying? She asked quietly. You want to be with Emma now? I looked at her for a moment before answering. I'm saying this whole open relationship showed me what I really want. And it's not someone who treats me like an afterthought. That's when she broke down. She started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that probably would have broken my heart a month earlier. But now, all I could think about was how she'd never shed a single tear while I was falling apart because of everything she'd been putting me through. We can fix this, she pleaded between sobs. We can go back to how things were. I slowly shook my head. No, we can't. She looked at me, hoping I'd change my mind. Because now I know what it feels like to be with someone who actually values me, I said. And I'm not settling for anything less ever again. Then she did something I never expected. She grabbed her keys and stormed out, saying she was going to Emma's apartment to settle everything once and for all. The second the front door slammed shut, I grabbed my phone and called Emma to warn her. When I told her Sophie was on her way, she simply said, "Let her come." Emma had always been the calm one. Almost nothing ever seemed to shake her. I offered to come over. "No," she replied. "I need to handle this myself. She's been my best friend for 10 years. I owe her that much." For the next hour, I paced around the apartment, checking my phone every couple of minutes. The whole place felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Finally, Emma called. Her voice was shaky. She showed up screaming. Emma said, "I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard everything." What happened? She kept yelling that I betrayed her, that I was a terrible friend, and that I'd been planning this behind her back the whole time. What did you tell her? I told her the truth. Emma took a deep breath before continuing. I told her I'd had feelings for you for years, but never acted on them because she was my friend. I told her watching the way she'd treated you these past few weeks made me realize she didn't deserve either of us. And I told her that what happened between us wasn't planned, but I don't regret it. I already knew Sophie wouldn't take that well. She didn't, Emma said. She tried to push past me and get into my apartment because she wanted to see if you were hiding inside. Emma had blocked the doorway, so she accused me of hiding you. Emma let out a tired sigh. She's completely lost it. According to Emma, Sophie started bringing up every interaction we'd ever had, convinced they'd all been part of some secret affair. She mentioned the time I'd helped Emma move her couch last year, the same day Sophie had been too busy with work to help. She claimed that when Emma brought me homemade soup while I had the flu, it was really just an excuse for us to hook up. Even all those movie nights we'd spent together as a group suddenly became proof that we'd secretly been in love the whole time. Then she just broke down, Emma continued. She slid down against my front door crying, saying she never wanted any of this to happen. One of Emma's neighbors came outside to make sure everything was okay. It was so embarrassing, Emma admitted. Eventually, Sophie's meltdown got so loud that Mrs. Chen threatened to call the police if she didn't leave. Before walking away, Sophie looked at Emma and said she'd ruined everything and that she'd never forgive her. About 20 minutes after I got off the phone with Emma, Sophie came back to the apartment. She looked exhausted. The second she walked in, she saw me looking at my phone. I was texting Emma to make sure she was okay. Sophie completely lost it. "Are you texting her right now?" she yelled. "Planning your next meetup? How long have you two been laughing at me behind my back?" I looked at her calmly. "Nobody's laughing at you, Sophie. You did this to yourself." "I didn't do anything," she screamed, throwing. She threw her purse across the room. "I suggested an open relationship to make us stronger," she shouted. "I didn't tell you to sleep with my best friend." I looked at her. "No, you just wanted permission to sleep with whoever you wanted while keeping me around as your backup plan." Without another word, she started grabbing things, photos of us, gifts I'd given her, little reminders of our relationship, and tossing them into a box. "I'm staying at Jessica's," she said. "My real friend. Someone who wouldn't stab me in the back." "Fine by me," I replied. "Take whatever you want." She stopped packing and stared at me. "That's it?" she asked. "You're not even going to try to stop me?" I shook my head. "Why would I? You've already made it clear what matters to you, and it isn't me or this relationship." She slowly sat down on the couch, suddenly looking much smaller than she had a few minutes earlier. "I thought," she whispered, "I thought you'd always be there. No matter who else I dated, I thought you'd still be waiting when I was ready to settle down." There it was. The truth. I was never her partner. I was her safety net, her backup plan, the person she'd always assumed would be waiting at the finish line while she explored every other option. "Well," I said quietly, "you were wrong." She looked up at me. "I'm not some puppy waiting faithfully by the door while you're out having fun. I'm a person. I have feelings, and I deserve better than being someone's second choice." "But you weren't my second choice," she cried. "I love you." I shook my head. "No, Sophie. You love having me around when it's convenient. That's not the same thing." She started crying again. This time, I felt nothing. No guilt. No urge to comfort her. Just emptiness. "I'll come back tomorrow for the rest of my things," she said, finally picking up the box. "I can't stay here right now." After she left, I called Emma. Just hearing her voice made me feel calmer. We ended up talking for hours about everything that had happened, about us, and about what came next. Emma told me that some of their mutual friends had already started taking sides. Most of them were calling her a backstabber without even knowing the full story. "I don't care," she said. "They can believe whatever they want. I know it's real." After we hung up, I looked around the apartment. Half the place was empty now, with all of Sophie's things gone. Instead of feeling sad, I felt relieved. For the first time in weeks, I could finally breathe. I asked Emma to come over and stay with me, and she agreed. At that point, I honestly didn't care what anyone else thought anymore. The next morning, Sophie came back for the rest of her belongings. She brought Jessica and two other friends I barely knew. They kept giving me dirty looks while helping her pack, like I was somehow the villain in all of this. It was obvious Sophie had already told them her version of the story. "Your Xbox is mine," she said as she unplugged it. "I bought it for your birthday." "Fine," I replied. "Take it." By then, I couldn't have cared less about material things. Halfway through the packing, Emma showed up. She hadn't originally planned to come, but I'd texted her saying I needed coffee. She understood what I really meant. The moment she walked in, Sophie's friends started whispering to each other. Emma ignored them completely. She walked over, handed me my coffee, and smiled. "Really?" Sophie snapped. "You're seriously going to flaunt this in my face?" Emma stayed perfectly calm. "Nobody's flaunting anything," she said. "I'm just here to support him. I'm just here to support my boyfriend." It was the first time either of us had used that word. Sophie looked like she'd been slapped. After that, everyone packed in silence. Her friends hurried around grabbing the rest of her things, probably hoping to get her out of there before she had another breakdown. When everything was packed, Sophie stood in the doorway for a moment. "I really loved you," she said quietly. I looked at her and shook my head. "No, you loved knowing I'd always be there whenever you wanted me. That's not the same thing." Then she left. Emma stayed behind to help me clean up. "You okay?" she asked as I tossed a few of Sophie's leftover things into a donation box. I smiled. "Yeah, for the first time in months. I really am." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, life has been completely different. Better. Emma and I have been taking things slowly and doing it the right way. Last weekend, we grabbed coffee at her favorite cafe and ran into a few of Sophie's friends. They completely ignored us. Emma just smiled, reached over, and squeezed my hand. Sophie is still telling everyone her version of the story, that I cheated on her, that Emma betrayed her, and that we'd secretly wanted each other all along. Some people believe her. The people who actually matter don't. Yesterday, Emma came over carrying a stack of artwork from her kindergarten students. "My fridge looked too empty," she said as she covered it with colorful crayon drawings. Standing there, I realized something. This is what I've been looking for. Someone who notices the little things. Someone who wants to make my home feel warmer. Someone who shows up with coffee just because. Instead of arguing or worrying about who the other person was texting, I spent the evening helping Emma grade papers while we watched the new mystery series she loves. It was simple, normal, real. Looking back, I'm almost grateful Sophie suggested the open relationship. Not because it was a good idea, it absolutely wasn't, but because it forced me to realize what I truly wanted in a partner. Someone who chooses me first, not someone who only wants me when it's convenient. Life has a strange way of working sometimes. The worst decisions can end up leading you exactly where you're supposed to be. In my case, they led me to the person who'd quietly been there all along. Edit *, thanks for all the support, Reddit. Emma's reading this over my shoulder right now, laughing because I described her as always smiling. She says, "Hi, by the way.